It's all mindset, because we all know stories of people. I think this is best illustrated with lottery winners, right? You can be handed a pile of money, but if your mindset isn't right, generally you go back to where you started or even worse. And so my philosophy is really based on that. It's not about the amount of money you have, it's learning who to be the person with the money that you want and creating and attracting money from that space. Hold tight is really the person who's saving everything. They're not going to let go of money. And so they have a good amount of money. But the thing that I've heard from those that are hold tight is, but they feel like they miss out on opportunities. You know, that's a big one, especially for entrepreneurs, is going to invest in all these things, but not actually going through with them. Survival, going out and spending money so that you can stay in survival mode. With entrepreneurs, this is, I have to go to this conference. I have to do this thing. That's what it looks like in terms of entrepreneurs.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. So, the big question is this. How are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough? Use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams. Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question. And this podcast will give you the answers. Hey listeners and viewers, we have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. Come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. That is bootstrapping.group. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Cassie Parks. So Cassie helps people learn how to welcome and keep more money in their life so that they can recognize their worth and their ability to create the life that they choose to live. She also helps business owners identify where their action is out of alignment and help them grow into the entrepreneur they want to be, so that they can attract the most powerful people and resources into their lives. Welcome, Cassie.
Thank you for having me, Manuj. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we are excited to learn about wealth and how we can attract them. And everybody seems to want more and more of it. So let's dive into it. So tell us a little bit about your philosophies about wealth and how one can accumulate it.
Oh, I'd love to. My philosophy is it's all our mindset. So some of us might have to go through a little more growing, or we might have to put in more energy in the front, but it's all mindset, because we all know stories of people. I think this is best illustrated with lottery winners, right? You can be handed a pile of money, but if your mindset isn't right, generally you go back to where you started or even worse. And so my philosophy is really based on that. It's not about the amount of money you have, it's learning who to be the person with the money that you want and creating and attracting money from that space.
I see. So basically you need to understand your why, your purpose in life, and basically work towards that purpose, and the money comes through that as an outcome of that. Is that correct understanding?
I actually do it a little bit different. So I think, so when you understand, I work with my people to understand who they want to be in the life they want to live. And a lot of times their purpose, that passion, that how to get that money comes later. It comes after we get really clear that they are somebody who can have money, who can attract money, who can enjoy money. And use it as a tool rather than sometimes as a crutch or as a, just go spend money for that quick hit high. But when you become that person who can have money, we can start to build a life around that. And very often, sometimes people come to me and they know exactly what they want to do. They know their purpose and their passion. They're just not, they haven't been able to monetize it. And a lot of times people come to me and they're not sure yet. They just know they want a different life. And so we go right to work on the money mindset. And as we clear up all that, their purpose, their passion, and all that becomes clear as well.
Okay, I see. Now, obviously, money is a very, how shall I? It's a strange topic. Like a lot of people do not want to talk about it, but internally, most people are thinking about it. So when you say, finding the purpose, it sounds really good. But let's say, somebody is in a position where they are really strapped for cash. So, when we talk to somebody, like I talk to, some of these people on regular basis as well, trying to coach them. And, the first thing they say, okay, it's all sounds good, but it seems like it'll take a lot of time and even more money for me to understand what this is all about. I just need to figure out how to make money right now. So what do you say to those people?
I mean, I say to those people that how often has that worked? How many times have you said that? And has it worked? So I think there are ways to make money right now. And especially in today's, society, we have opportunities that weren't there a while ago. I think the opportunity to make money has always been there and make it quickly and go all in. But we have, ride sharing and Instacart and all these things that are opportunities that people actually, which I think is cool for entrepreneurs, because if they need to go close that cash gap, they can do that right away. And I often will suggest to somebody, great, like, go get out of the desperation that you have to make money in your business and go do something else, because that desperation is just repelling people.
Yeah.
So I always say it's a long game. Like very often when you start working with me, always some sort of money starts flowing in, and we're still in it for the long game. I'm not going to say it's going to be $1,000 tomorrow, because I always ask people, do you want to be the person who can get $1,000 one time tomorrow? You want to be the person who's attracting money all the time and has $10,000 in their bank account, and that's easy and that feels good.
That's awesome. That's great. Now, you have been able to create a very envious life, if I can say. So you are on a never-ending vacation. Is that correct, first of all?
I mean, pretty much. I loved the question when I saw it come across, and I had to think about it for a minute, but it is because I love what I do. So I'm never taking, even when I'm working, I love it. It's playing for me. So I'm, and then I'm able to travel wherever I want. I'm able to work from wherever there's an internet connection. So I can very often, go on vacation and go play for 3 or 4 hours, come back, work with my clients for an hour, and go back and have more fun. So yeah. And I just got a house with a pool. So it really is like a never ending vacation.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get started? How did you uncover all these secrets or frameworks of thought patterns? Tell us about that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So when I was 19, I heard this term called financial independence. And I was like, oh, some people don't have to go to work and they have enough money to live off of. I was like, that sounds really good. And that's really where my journey started. And it went off in a lot of different directions, but I wanted my own business so I didn't have to go to work. I wanted this. And I spent a lot of time trying to build my coaching business, and it didn't work out very well. And one day I went back and I said, what is it you really want? And I said, it's that financial independence. And so what I did was I went to work on that, because I really wanted the freedom to build my coaching practice. And so I started, I had already started real estate for different reasons. I had started real estate for more of a long-term thing. But I really started doing it more of not short term is not the right term, but more for the cash flow now versus the wealth building later. And pretty quickly, within 2 years, I quit my full-time job because I had enough passive income from my real estate that I could pay my bills. And then I had the freedom to build my coaching practice. And that's really when it started to thrive, when I had done that, managed that, and then had the time and the freedom and the space that I wanted to create what I wanted to create.
Yeah. So to your earlier point, basically, if you're in desperation, you can never sort of achieve it becomes really hard to achieve your long-lasting goals. But if you take care of the immediate needs and give yourself a little bit more breathing room, that's when you get into the state of mind to actually do the things that you really want to do. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think you can, even if the circumstances say I'm sort of in a desperate place, I think you can get your mind to the place where you're not desperate and you can be open. I think it's a little more work. And so sometimes it is easier to just get as quickly to that non-desperate place as possible and work from there. So yeah.
I see. That's great. And now let's talk about some of your theories and practices. So you have categorized the money stories into some specific types of money stories. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the money stories are basically what I've realized after working with clients. A lot of clients, I started interviewing clients who are successful. We're celebrating their success. And I started asking the question, what was your old money story? And what I started to hear was the same stories, about 5 stories coming up. And so that's when I realized these are sort of the ones that we just get by default, right? We get them from watching our parents. We get them from trying to be the opposite of our parents, but we go too far one way. We get them from the things we've heard in society and our early experiences with money. We sort of, if you don't consciously choose a money story, you pick up one by default. And the thing about these stories is that they play out from $300 to $3 million. I've seen them and I've heard about people going, oh yeah, this is my brother. He keeps getting $4 million and then losing it, but then he can get 4 million more, and so it's not just, it doesn't matter the amount of money. It's really the story and how that's playing out in your life that is the thing that matters.
Sure. Sure. So let's go over some of these stories. So the first one is a survival story.
Yeah. So this is somebody who's really always, there's never enough money, right? So, and if there is enough money, it's gone really fast, because they actually like to they don't do this knowing it, but they feel very safe in that survival mode with that adrenaline running, right? This is somebody who probably, in addition to having, money, there's never enough money. There's never enough time. They have too much to do. They're really taking too much onto our plate because our money story affects everything in our life. And so it's just somebody who there's never, ever enough money.
Cool. And so basically what you're saying is this is a psychological pattern they manifest in their real life because they want to be in that survival mode all the time.
Yeah, unconscious. Like they don't go out and say, yeah, I'd like to stay in the survival mode. But even though it's uncomfortable at times, it's what your brain gets used to. Your brain knows gets used to functioning in survival mode. And so they always put themselves back in survival mode.
Got it. So if a person is in survival mode, they just need to recognize that and sort of shift their mindset a little bit so that they come out of that survival mode. Is that how it works?
Yeah, starting to recognize it and becoming aware is number one. I think it takes a big shift versus a little shift. It takes practicing and it takes relearning and being aware of when you're getting yourself back into survival mode. Because human beings are smart. We can justify a lot of things. So we'll justify, spending a lot of money to get ourselves back. And we're like, no, it's not survival mode because this is really, you can justify it. But a lot of times when I work with my clients, I'm like, but is it? And then we start to shift that.
I see. And the next one is a just enough story.
Yeah. So this is the person, and the way they recognize this as their money story is if there's always just enough. So, that if your car breaks down and it's going to be $1,000, somehow $1,000 is going to magically show up. But if you get $300 extra dollars, maybe get an extra client in the month, or just somebody gives you $300, the hot water heater's going to go out and it's going to cost $300. And so there's always just enough money. So it's less stressful than the survival story, but it's also sucks because anytime you go to save for something comes up. And so you don't get those dreams. You don't get to go on those dream trips and those things that you really want. Okay.
And how do you tackle this one?
Practice going after more, really shifting, this one is a little more of a process, but all of them are becoming aware and opening up space for more money and celebrating more money is really a number one. Yeah.
And then there's a money chaser story.
Yes. So money chaser is very often entrepreneur. They're the
Mhm.
person who's maybe joined 5 MLMs, or
Mhm.
their family's really tired about hearing about their new business idea, because they're always chasing that new idea,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They don't stick with
Mhm.
it for very long, but it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I could go sell this and make $1 million. And 2 weeks later, they're like, oh no, I'm going to do this online business and I'm going to make $1 million. And so and they'll put out a lot of money to try and make this happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to this one, in our audience particularly. Uh, and then there's a whole tight story.
Yeah. And hold tight is really the person who's saving everything. They're not going to let go of money. And so they have a good amount of money. But the thing that I've heard from those that are hold tight is, but they feel like they miss out on opportunities, right? There's
Mm.
opportunities they're not willing to take, and they're not willing to grow because they're not willing to let go of the money.
Yeah. And then there's a money hot mess story. This sounds interesting.
Yeah. And this is really a person who doesn't pay attention, or isn't, and this person's story is built, they've generally always had enough money. And so they just haven't paid attention. But there comes a point in their life where they're like, I've made a lot of money, but I don't have a lot to show for it. They've never been in really a stressful money situation, but they start to realize, like, I should have more. I should, have more saved, or I should have more, just whatever it is. And it's just that they've never really paid attention. It hasn't been necessary to
I see.
pay close attention, and they've always had what they wanted. So they don't really need to, worry about that until at
Yeah.
which point they do.
I see. So when they start this journey with you, or even on their own to manifest money, basically the idea seems to be that they need to figure out what their story is, where did it originate, and sort of try to shift that energy. Is that the process?
Partly. So a lot of people will identify their money story before they even come to me.
Mhm.
You can go to identifyyourmoneystory.com, and you don't even have to, put your email address in, and you can figure out what your story is, get reminded, and check that out. And then people come to me to change it. And what we don't do, actually, we don't go back to the origin of it.
Mhm.
Because for me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we dig up where it came from, because that doesn't necessarily help us change it. We just decide on a daily basis, what's the money story you want to write, and how do we keep moving you in the direction you want to go versus what's happening. So my clients often know their money stories, and it might be a couple months of working with me before I ask about that money story,
I see.
because I'm more focused on who they want to be. How do they want to be with money? And then in certain moments, I'll say, okay, what was your old story? So I can coach them a little bit better. But mostly we're going towards a new money story.
Got it. So now let's talk about one of your coaching programs. It's called Manifest 10K. So can
Mm-hmm.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Manifest 10K is it's a 90-day program where I teach people how to manifest $10,000 in 90 days.
Mhm.
That number came through the evolution of my business, and realizing that $10,000 for most people is big enough that they can't control the how. They have to learn to let go, and
Yeah.
not just go plan and go hustle for 10,000, because that's not the point. The point is to allow $10,000 to come into your mind,
Mhm.
into your life. But it's also not so big that your brain gets overwhelmed with how's it going to happen, and kind of gets overwhelmed with what that means, and helps you give up in a way.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
So in this program, do you also provide some tactical tools to implement strategies to manifest that, or is it all mostly mindset and your thought process?
So there's assignments, there's always assignments. And those assignments bring to the forefront the things that we need to change and help us change. So
I see.
they're built to make that change in our brain without being like, okay, here's the 5 things I want to change, right? And here's how we're going to go change them. What we do is you do an assignment, and your brain starts to make that shift little by little,
Mhm.
so that it's not overwhelming, and we don't have, like brain relapses of going back to the old ways.
Yeah.
It's designed to shift a little by little in your thinking by doing the assignments. And
I
there are
see.
some tactical things, some things to say. There's very tactical things that you can do, but it's all designed to shift your mindset along the way.
I see. And looking at your clients and people who you work with, like what are one of the most problematic areas that people face in common, like, or maybe there could be a few of them that you notice that almost everybody goes through this type of thought pattern about money. Can you share anything which is a generality between your clients?
The biggest generalities are between the money stories. So all survival people will generally have the same, they'll get caught up. They have a hard time slowing down because they run on adrenaline, right? And that ties into money as well, because they're always taking on more than they can handle. And so they're always stressed. Money chasers, common, they want to go act on that new idea. And so it's really training them to sit tight and make sure that idea is fully inspired, and make sure that idea is, they still love that idea 2 days from now and 2 weeks from now. Yeah.
And what about some of the mistakes that you have seen people make in their businesses and their professional careers? Whether whatever type of money story they have, people tend to make like same type of mistakes. So can you share a few?
Yeah, a few mistakes that people make with money. Going to so getting money but not fully evolving the money chaser story, and then going and investing that money and not having the outcome that they want. That's a big one, especially for entrepreneurs, is going to invest in all these things but not actually going through with them. Survival, going out and spending money so that you can stay in survival mode. With entrepreneurs, this is, I have to go to this conference, I have to do this thing. That's what it looks like in terms of entrepreneurs. Those are some of the common mistakes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And now let's talk about your journey. Like, when you started your business, you started with real estate, then you moved into coaching business, and you have a podcast as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But what are some of the mistakes that you made along this journey, which you learned from, and what were the lessons that you learned from them?
I was a hot mess and a money chaser, depending on the moment. And so just continuing to chase, to not sit back and enjoy my life, to be always like, I was always pushing to try and make my business work because I wanted out of my job. So before real estate, I was trying to build my coaching practice, and that was like phase one, and it was not successful. The most I ever made in a month was about $1,000. And when I would launch a program, the most I ever got was 2 people in a $47 program. And so, but it was because I was always pushing. I was trying so hard. I was trying to force it and make it work instead of allowing it to work and becoming the person who had that business. And that's really the distinction I made when I quit my job. And I said, okay, if I'm going to build my business, I have to understand how to be the person who has a bunch of people sign up for the program. I have to be the person who has all the coaching clients that they want. And so the biggest mistake I was making is that I was in total action and no being.
That's great story. Very motivational as well. Now let's talk about your podcast. So what's the name of your podcast?
So I actually have 2 podcasts. One of them is called More Money, and that's me. And in its current, it's evolved with my business, right? Its current iteration, I interview my clients as they grow. So it's called the Years of Growth series. So I'll interview them every month to every 6 weeks as they go through the program. And we'll talk about how they've grown and what's changed in their life. And then I have a second podcast called Manifest It Now with a really good friend of mine. We just talk about law of attraction and how we apply it to our own lives, and teach people how they can apply it to their life.
That's awesome. So when did you start this podcast, and what motivated you to start it?
So my podcast is almost 5 years old. I was looking for a way to reach more people, and to teach what I was doing, as well as give me a platform to speak and grow even more into my own understanding and owning my coaching even on a deeper level. And then Manifest It Now with my friend Jenny, I wanted to do that. I wanted to, instead of interviewing experts, which is a very popular way to to do things in the law of attraction world, I said, I want to actually talk about the practical application and how are we applying it to our lives every day. And her and I have some different perspectives. We had different learning paths. And so I wanted to be able to show people like it all works. You just got to pick the path that works for you.
Okay. Now, a lot of people, just like you mentioned, you wanted to leave your job and start your own business. A lot of people in the audience are in a similar position. Now, one of the aspects that you can sort of incorporate into your life is a side hustle and slowly start to build it until it's big enough that you can leave your job. A lot of people have different ideas about this. Some people say, you got to drop everything. You cannot be in two lanes at the same time. You can either do a side hustle or you can do a job. What are your views about this?
I think we get to write our own story and we get to decide how we want to do it. And the biggest thing for me is following your own, what feels good to you. Because if you listen to, I think it can be beneficial to some people. It wasn't to me. I actually did it way before this iteration of quitting my job. I quit my job because I believed that, like, somebody was like, you can't have these other jobs and be all into this business. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm into this business. But what happened is that I hadn't built enough of a business. I took the leap and the net didn't appear because I wasn't mentally ready. I didn't know all the things I mentally needed. And so for me, it's what feels good to you. It's finding the path and the journey and trusting that you're going to get where you want to get and stay in what feels good. If it feels super stressful to quit your job, don't quit your job. Just find a way to integrate your business and make that feel good as your side hustle. And if you're one of those people that you have to go all in and it always works out, like, then that's what you trust and you do that. But you got to I believe you have to write your own story and follow your own path of what feels best, because as an entrepreneur, when you feel best, and like we mentioned in the beginning, not desperate, you're going to attract and create what you want. And so it's just making sure that you feel good and abundant and letting the business evolve as it needs to evolve.
That's great. Well, that's a very, very good answer. Thank you so much for that. Now, you built a very successful coaching business, and you've got a successful podcast. You've written books. What motivates you now to keep going?
I just love it. I love everything I do. For me, I remember in the beginning after leaving my job, I really had this, I said, I just want to talk about the law of attraction all day and coach the law of attraction all day. And that's really what I do. So I write about things that are all law of attraction in some way or form. I talk about it on podcasts like this. I interview my clients about their success stories and I coach. Like, it's so much fun. Like, I've created exactly what I wanted. And so it's easy to keep going. And I'm excited. I'm more excited now than ever as I enter this next phase of my business, because my business has just taken a big evolution. And so I'm excited about what's next and growing into that and seeing, I can see the start of it, but seeing in 5 years, like, it's going to be even, I mean, it's awesome right now, but it's going to get even better as it gets deeper and deeper.
That's great. And now, what are your goals for the next, as you put it, 5 years? What are your goals for the next phase of your life?
Oh man. So I always go, I go with intentions, because the definition of intention is a determination to act. And so I think it reminds me to be the person I want to be in 5 years. And so in 5 years, I want to be an even stronger partner. I want to be an even better mother. I'm going to be, a person who has really turned the coaching industry on its side, because I have a 5 year, I'm building a 5-year coaching practice versus a 6-month or it's just different. And so 5 years from now, I'm speaking about that. I'm speaking about trusting your own gut and your own path on really big stages. And I'm just serving more of my clients. And the best part about who I am in 5 years, in addition to my family, is that I've had clients that I've helped stepped into their future self over the last 5 years. And we get to see their success. I get to see them make $1 million. I get to see all of these cool things.
Yeah, I think one common thread I'm seeing here is that you have found exactly what makes you happy, and also you talk a lot about giving rather than taking. So you're trying to help people, which gives you a lot of satisfaction, inner satisfaction, and that sort of aligns well with your goals wherever you're going. Is that correct understanding?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, and now one of the last questions. We talk about bootstrapping here, and we preach bootstrapping. Did you bootstrap your business, or did you have any help from external investors?
Oh, I bootstrapped my business. Yeah.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
see. And so, any benefits, any pros and cons you can share about bootstrapping businesses these days?
You learn so much when you do it. I think you learn from investing in yourself. You learn when you make those decisions. I think the best thing anyone can do is bootstrap their business. Like, it's awesome if you have an investor. That's amazing, right?
Mhm.
And I can see how that would be super helpful in my life. But um, bootstrapping, you get to figure out what you're made of, and you're constantly investing in yourself. And if you see it as, this is just an investment in me, like, I'm going to be the best payout, I have the best ROI ever,
Mhm.
then you just grow, because if you believe you're the best investment, you're going to get the best return.
Awesome. That's great. Well, it has been very enlightening conversation about money and law of attraction. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us a little bit about how people can reach out and contact you?
Absolutely. So if you heard some stuff in the money stories, but you didn't quite figure out yours, you can go to identifyyourmoneystory.com, and you'll be able to pick out your money story. And you don't even have to put in your email address if you don't want to. But if you want to connect further, you can. The way that I coach people is called the Enchanted Circle. And I take you through Manifest 10K, where we teach you how to manifest $10,000. And then we up level it a notch to your future self, who you are 5 years from now, and coach you to that place, and help you pave your own path and see that you do have a path that's unique for you, and you can just follow that as it feels good. And you can learn more about all that at Cassie, Cassie Parks.com.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you're an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com, and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.